Hey everybody, my name is Bill, this is Yo-Yo Tech. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to take you on a tour of my smart home office. So this space also doubles as my YouTube studio and, where I work every single day. I'm going to take you around, show you the whole thing, talk about some of the smart home options that I'm working on, some of the technology I'm using for YouTube, and give you just a general tour. If you like this type of thing, leave me the thumbs up. That way I know and I can show you some of the other rooms in the house that have a lot of smart home technology. This room was purpose built. And there's a little thing about this room that everyone always seems quite surprised on. So if you can guess where this is in my house, leave a comment down below along with the time code when you think you figured it out. There's going to be a few clues probably as we go along here, so I'm interested to see if anyone knows. The room itself is 8 by 10 feet. And the ceiling is actually only about 8 feet tall, which to be honest is plenty for me. Behind me here I have my camera gear, my microphones, kind of all the things that I use on a daily basis. I'm able to come and grab them here. It's easy access to get to. Top shelf, I've got my Sony Walkman, a little bit of retro throwback, and a Rubik's Cube and a few other things there that are just for fun. Down here I've got my drones, some audio equipment. On the bottom shelf I've actually got an Alexa device which I use primarily for notifications in here. So for example, every hour on the hour it will announce the time.
The time is now 10 a.m.
It lets me know if the garage door is open. It lets me know if a parcel or if someone's on the porch. There's a bunch of other notifications if the doorbell rings. Pretty much anything that I have verbal notifications from, it's going to come out through there. And I have others of those throughout the house. Down there, I also have a small fan, and that's actually controlled by a small smart plug from a company called EightTree. Little tiny guy like this. Super easy, super handy to have around. I use these all the time when it comes to lights or fans, anything that doesn't have smarts built in and you want to be able to turn them on and off, super easy. These are here. You can use their own smart app for it, or of course I have everything connected to Home Assistant. I'm going to put the links for anything I talked today down below, so if you want to go ahead and click on them, they're affiliate links, which means they're going to help you find the product and they're going to help my channel out. I have a Zigbee motion sensor here, mostly using that for temperature and humidity right now. And finally on this shelf, all of the lights that go on it, the little spotlights on each shelf, those are Ikea spotlights. They all plug into a Zigbee controller. If you're not using anything else in Home Assistant and you're just looking for an easy way to do lighting, that's fantastic, and you can control it from the app that comes from Ikea. But if you're using it within Home Assistant, it's super easy to connect using a Z-Wave or Zigbee dongle. And that's of course how I have it set up. Also, hiding in the back corner here is a light switch for the main lights in the room. I don't really turn them on very much unless I'm doing things like this or I want to move things around and really need it bright in here. But that's a Z-Wave receiver. The light switch is back there because, well, it was the easiest place to put it. And I don't really ever use the light switch. Control it off of here, control it through automations for the most part, and it just works. So as we move around, we're going to see my big 55-inch touchscreen. I'll admit this room was partially designed around this. I knew I wanted this in there. So I've got a recessed cavity back into the wall. I built it back in. Plugs are actually down inside the wall here, so behind you can't see them. I have an Apple TV down there and all the wires can tuck in nicely down below. This is on a kind of a scissor wall mount, so I can pull it out if I need to and get behind it. The device itself used to be a Zoom Rooms dedicated device for like a boardroom. I also have an Apple TV on it, so if I want I can just switch the HDMI and jump over to Apple TV to watch regular TV or whatnot. And when I need to, you switch back to PC. And essentially this is running Windows as the main operating system, and I've just installed Chrome, and off we go. If you've watched any of my videos, you know I've been redesigning a lot of my dashboards. This one's kind of last to go just because I use it the most and I'm not ready to switch over to something new yet, but it will be happening soon. If you're interested in how I do that, check out my video for perfectly positioned dashboard, something like that. But essentially it's a method I came up with in order to allow me to place my cards anywhere on the screen, right down to the pixel, as opposed to working in a grid or some sort of masonry or any of the other formats that are built into Home Assistant. As we move around the room and we come over here, you can see a little bit of a blue light coming up from below. That's a LIFX bulb I've got going down there. This is an original LIFX. I use tons of LIFX bulbs around my house, but this one's like Kickstarter days. I think I probably had it for, I'm going to guess 10 years I've been using these bulbs. These are the big 1000 lumen bulbs. I have a whole bunch of them around, but I also use those in pot lights outside of my house. And they're fantastic because I can change the colors for holidays and Christmas and Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, sports, events, whatever you want. Over here, I pretty much just have some storage. I've got a nice Ikea cabinet here where it is pretty much my only place to hide things within here. My goal eventually is to print some nice 3D printed inserts to help me organize things in there. I've got some of my stuff back in here that I'm getting ready to do some reviews on, but for the most part, this is my main storage. Back down there in the corner, you also can't see, I have a Ubiquiti PoE switch. Pretty much it for this corner. Oh, one other thing I'll mention, because I get asked all the time, the tiles that I have on the wall. These are peel and stick acoustic tiles. Got them from Amazon. They're super easy. When I was building the room out, two things that I wanted to be able to do with it. Well, three things technically. I wanted it to look pretty good. Two, I didn't want to have to spend too much time sanding the ceiling, but it was done well enough that I could then take these and put them all over the ceiling, put them on the back wall here for a little bit of accent, and it gives me great sound deadening in here. So there's not any echo at all. It's hopefully the audio sounds pretty good. Over here, I have what I call my gear wall. Now, essentially what this is I put a bunch of, I believe it's called wall control pegboard style panels on the wall. They're actually metal. And the one benefit that they have over your typical pegboard is they have the holes, just like a pegboard would, but they also have these little slots in them. And the slots allow a locking mechanism. So if you've ever used pegboard, you know you put something in there, you got to pull it off, the whole peg, everything comes off, and it's a little bit terrible sometimes. These are much nicer. The thing that really sold them on me, although it came with a couple of accessories, is the fact that there is an entire 3D printed library out there where you can make as many custom things as you want for it. So for example, all of these shelves here, most of the hooks that I'm using on here are all 3D printed. So you can essentially go in, you download the basic of it, you can customize it any way you want, and you just 3D print everything off. The final thing I like about them is it's magnetic. So for example, I have some charging cables that I run there, and I use these charging cables from a company called Magtame. And again, I'll put the link down below, but the thing I really like about them is they're super high-end, high-quality cables, but on top of that, their kind of trick is they're magnetic. So if you look, they actually stick to themselves. So when you want to wind them up and put them in a bag, you kind of just wind it all up, and they hold together and you can go in a bag. Now, the other nice thing is, you can see some of them over here, they stick to the wall. So because they're magnetic, I can kind of just draw out a path I want them to go, and I leave them hanging there. So when I plug in my Apple headphones or some of my batteries for charging and things like that, this cable is right there. And because it's magnetic, I don't have to worry about taping it down or finding a way to clip it in an exact position. I can always kind of just rejig how I want it to go. Some of the other things I have hanging here, let's start over here. I've got my Sonos speaker. So I use Sonos speakers all over my house. I started with one speaker just like this, a Sonos One, probably 10 years ago, and I've slowly built my system out. Everything connects to Home Assistant. So for the most part, I have some controls on my dashboard to control the audio. I can link them together to create groups very easily and unlink them. I also have some extra wires and cabling, some lighting, my Apple TV remote, pens, pencils, that type of thing all hanging off this wall. It just keeps it off the ground, keeps it nice and organized. A couple extra keyboards. I have some lighting, tripods, my Apple headphones like I mentioned. Over here I have my Apple iPad and I have my laptop as well. So that's my actual work laptop. When I work from home, what I do is I put it up on the shelf there. It's got its power cable behind, so it's plugged in and it's working. And then I access everything remotely using Remote Desktop. As we move over to the other side here, you can see, let's start with the big key light in the back here. So I use this for YouTube. Hopefully my lighting's been getting a little bit better. This one is an Amaran 200D. Back in the corner, mirrors pretty much what I have on the other side. Originally my desk was here in front of the wall, so it kind of gave me some symmetry, but I ended up moving to the other side and I like that much better. Also, it allowed me to add a couch in here, which is needed since I'm usually standing when I'm in here, and every once in a while I needed a place to sit down and relax. Over here in the corner, you're gonna notice there's another motion sensor. That's an AOTech motion sensor. Again, that's mostly used for temperature, humidity, the rest of the sensors it has. Forgot about one thing, let's come back over here. Right here I have the Aquara M-Wave sensor, so this is the way that I detect motion and presence within this office. You set it up in their app, create zones for when things happen. So the second I walk through that door, the lights in this room come on. The second I walk out of that door, the lights go off. Now, this is going to be one of my hints over here, but right here I have a vent shaft. That's set up to the HVAC in my house, so for heating and cooling. It's open right now, so it looks a little bit rough, but I've been working on a project where I've 3D printed a vent cover to go on it that can open and close using a small stepper motor and an ESP board, which is of course connected to Home Assistant. In the winter, when this guy starts pumping heat in here, this is an 8x10 room, it can actually heat it up too much. So the easiest way I found to fix that was just to have a vent that I could close, and it actually just cuts off the air. I wanted to change the color I 3D printed it in, which is why it's off right now, and I'm kind of working on the design a bit. But I'll share that with you, and if you guys are interested, let me know. I can show you the whole project. Down in the corner, I have a DeLonghi 4-in-1 air conditioner unit. So it's an air conditioner, a heater, a dehumidifier, and a fan. Again, when I picked that out, Home Assistant was top of mind, so it is fully controllable from Home Assistant. So now we're starting to get to my desk. So this is the side that nobody ever sees because my cameras, of course, are facing that way in my videos. What I have here is a sit-stand desk. I bought the frame off of Amazon. I put an Ikea countertop on it. I paid for the little bit more expensive one, so this is actually a nice strong butcher block one. But the nice thing about it is it's super strong. So everything that's on the desk, the monitors, the lights, the cameras, everything here is mounted to the desktop, which means when I put it down or up, raise the height of it, everything moves with it and it stays nicely in sync with what I'm doing. Also, I used to have this on casters so I could move it around, but I found it was a little bit too wobbly. What I ended up doing was taking the casters off, and I put furniture pads underneath the feet, and I can actually slide it around in here just as easy on the vinyl plank flooring I put down. I have a couple of power bars mounted underneath to the bottom of it, which everything is plugged into. And those run down the leg here, down the back, to a UPS that I have on the floor. Working from the side over here, spare keyboard. In the back there, I have a Google Pixel tablet. This is the newest tablet I've been using around my house for my dashboards. This is the one I use to do the designs on. Work on my Home Assistant, create them here, test them out here, and ultimately push them to different rooms in the house. Beside it, I have an iPhone. This is an older one. And what I use that for is a wireless camera. So right now it's sitting on a 3D printed wireless mount. As you can see, the cameras are facing this way and they're actually always on. They're provided as a source for OBS. So OBS is open broadcast software, and it allows you to hook up all your video sources, all your audio sources, and from there you can kind of manage. So whether I'm doing a YouTube video or I'm doing a Zoom or a Teams call, everything kind of goes through OBS. I have all my different inputs in there, and it can control what goes out to where. The nice thing with this is I'll typically do desk shots or product shots if I'm doing a YouTube video, but I've also used it in Zoom calls where I grab it and either I have to go somewhere, I want to show somebody something, or maybe I just want to sit down on the couch and be able to set my camera up in a way that's a little bit different. It's an easy way to just grab that, and it's always working, always on wireless camera. I have my studio speakers here set up on either side. This guy over here is a Ulanzi desktop clock, very similar to the Lametric over there, only it's a lot cheaper. Does pretty much the same thing. Screen's actually a little bit bigger. It's just another screen over here for me to be able to see what time it is, what the weather is. You can do a lot of things connected to sports teams. YouTube counters in there, light counters for other tools. There's a bunch of little apps it comes with. Fun little desk clock to have, big and easy to read. In the middle here, I have my Tangula 5X Pro, which is my TV box. Again, I did a video on that recently. If you're looking to get rid of your cable bills, fantastic. I have mine set up going into a video capture card on my computer. So I actually have my TV directly into OBS as well, so it's a source. Going back to OBS, if you've ever used it, you can have two windows. One is kind of your broadcast window, that's what you're sending through your Zoom or what you're recording. The other one is like a preview window. And you can put whatever you want on both of those windows in the app. I typically keep the preview window for things like my TV or even my security cameras. All my Ubiquity cameras can connect to that. And I use Home Assistant to control OBS. Next to that, I have a small Ikea switch. So this is what comes with, well, it doesn't come, but you can buy these from Ikea. It's just a little rocker switch. And from this, you can control, well, pretty much anything. You can hook this up to Home Assistant. And you have 4 buttons technically, because you have up, down, and hold up and hold down. Each one of those can be assigned to turning on lights, pausing music, pretty much anything you want it to do through Home Assistant. Or if you use it in the Ikea app, you can use it to control your lights and anything that's in the Ikea app. Beside that, I have my RodeX Streamer X. This is where I connect my main camera as well as my microphone. My microphone's right here, and it is connected to the Elgato microphone arm, which is like a low profile one. It's really nice because it kind of comes out like this and can go back in there and kind of hide away and be out of my way for the most part. Up at the top here, we've got a BenQ monitor light. So if I'm working in here, it helps your eyes adjust. Cool little device. Most of the time I don't have all the big lights on, so that just lights up my desk and it keeps it more comfortable so you reduce your eye strain. Moving across the desk, over here I have the Elgato prompter. If you guys have never used one of these before, this is essentially a small little monitor and you can mount your camera right behind it. So behind that screen that you see is actually a Panasonic GH5. And that's my main camera I use for my Zoom calls, for my video recording, pretty much for everything. That runs using a little battery adapter that plugs in. So instead of having to charge the battery all the time, you just put this fake battery up into the battery compartment and you plug it in and it works all the time. I use one of those little power adapters I showed you earlier to turn that on and off. Okay, so that brings me to my monitors. This one here I ended up with is the 57-inch widescreen. It's basically two 4K monitors side by side. Now, you can connect the two. My Mac doesn't have enough power to push it. So if you have the M2 or the M3 chip, it can do it full res, full refresh rate. Mine can do full res, two 4K monitors, but it only does it at 60 hertz. So for what I'm doing 90% of the time, that's fine, but overall it's not the best. So what I ended up doing was I actually plugged two cables into my computer. My computer sees this monitor as two separate monitors that I have sitting side by side. One of the benefits that comes from that is each monitor is seen as its own monitor. So you actually get your own Apple menu up in the top, which for me is a bonus because if you're ever working in like Photoshop or something like that, you need the file menu. To have to go all the way over to the other corner and then back to whatever you're doing is a bit of a pain. This way it kind of puts it right on the same part of the monitor you're using. Also, the other benefit is I've actually upped the resolution on this side. So this side's actually running at 1080 by 1440. I find emails, Word documents, things like that very difficult to read. So with them on that monitor, I get a little bit bigger text. It makes it super easy to read, whereas I keep that one at 4K all the time. So if I'm working in Final Cut Pro or Photoshop, I get the extra screen real estate and the fine detail with it. Button push on the bottom and it'll switch over to one big giant monitor. But for me, this is the way I use it 90% of the time. And like I said, for all intents and purposes, it is one big monitor. You can just drag things back and forth. Works just like normal. Monitor's mounted on an arm in the back there, which is why it's kind of hovering up in the air there and it allows me to put everything underneath it. And if we come over here to the other side, I have another monitor over here. This one's also a little bit of a different aspect ratio. There's technically two 1080p monitors on top of each other. This is an LG monitor. I will make sure I include the model number on the screen when I edit this, but this is a fantastic monitor. Came with its own monitor mount arm, which is great, and you can turn it side to side. Highly recommend it, especially if you're doing long reading, web pages or email or big spreadsheets and things like that. It's a fantastic monitor for that type of thing. And the nice thing is, with the two of these together, it gives me so much real estate. I used to have like, I think 6 monitors connected to my computer at one time. All I needed these two. It's super easy to manage and take care of. The final things I guess I have Elgato key lights back here. These guys are a little bit harsh, which is why I got this new one over here. Finally, I have the Elgato Stream Deck. Down here I have the newer version that's got the dials, the touchscreen, and the 8 buttons on it. That's of course connected to a bunch of things on my computer as well as Home Assistant. So that's pretty much it. That is the general gist of my office. The piece that I was waiting to the end to tell you guys is where is this located? Well, it's actually in my garage. When I moved in a few years ago, I built a loft over the back half of the garage. Because we have other things in the garage, a snowblower and a bunch of bikes and some tools and things like that, we've only ever been able to fit one car in the garage. One side of the garage became this ginormous junk collector and the other side we kept a car in. When COVID hit, I was inside. I was always looking for a place to work that was quiet, where I could set my stuff up and be consistent and work and not have someone yelling and screaming or vacuuming or on a different call or watching TV or whatever it might be. So I came out here and built an office. So essentially it's just one wall down this side and one wall down this side. The only real trick to them is they're not fastened to the floor. So they're solid. No one's going to be able to move them. But if I ever need to rip them out to get them out of here, I could do it in the morning and have the whole thing ripped apart. Now, this wall down here and this wall down here are basically the back two of the garage, and that's why I was able to poke a hole through the wall there and tap into the HVAC of the house to get some air conditioning and heating in here. So that's pretty much it. It just goes to show you that you just need to find a space. There's always an option. I do all my YouTube stuff in here now. My office, I've been in here for almost 2 years, and it's been fantastic. Guys, I hope you like this. Like I said, Thumbs up if you do, subscribe for more content, leave comments if you have questions, if there's something I touched on you want to know more about. And other than that, I'm going to see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.